They had a giant warehouse full of the Old Spice body wash. They were going to discontinue it. He says that the best way is that nobody had time to screw it up. There's crazy stories all the way through production, how it should have died 100 times. The big insight was we're not talking to men anymore, we're talking to women. So Craig writes, "Hello, ladies." They would hold up a Skittles brief. We'd have 6 weeks and it would be like best script wins. It wouldn't be uncommon for us to not just think of, but to fully type out around 250 scripts.
Today, we're sitting down with Erich Kallman, co-founder and chief creative officer at Erich & Kallman, the writer behind campaigns that rewired culture, from Old Spice, The Man Your Man Could Smell Like, to Skittles, Little Caesars, and Kayak's iconic campaign. He's won every major award, built one of the most decorated small agencies in America, and is one of the few creatives who can make work that is both insanely original and insanely effective. Erich? Erich!
Hey, Erich!
It's Eric.
I know.
We're just messing with you. We're just messing with you. Sorry.
We're messing with you. You must get that all the time.
Well, he named his bloody agency Erich, so I don't know what to tell you.
It's true.
I'm called Gully Flowers, so like no one gets more ribbing about a name than I do, so that means I'm allowed to give it to everybody else.
Who named their kid Gully? What happened there?
Just hippies, I think. My younger sister got Rose, which flows really nicely.
Me. Rose flowers?
Yeah.
Parents.
And her middle name is Mary, and we used to have a little lamb. No joke.
Oh, you're kidding.
I think we ate the lamb. I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, the lamb went away, and then we had lamb that weekend or something. Anyway, Erich, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys. Where are you guys located?
I'm in Amsterdam.
Wow.
And I'm in San Diego.
Oh, cool. What city?
Yeah. In Encinitas.
Awesome.
And you, Erich?
I'm in our San Francisco office right now.
Okay.
Love it. San Francisco's back. Right?
Yeah, it never really went anywhere, but I guess downtown emptied out for a while.
And how do you find the creative community in San Francisco? Because obviously there's a lot of tech bros in quarter zips and puffy vests.
Quarter zips. I learned what that was last week.
Yeah, we love a quarter zip. And hoodies now too, right? Product guys wear hoodies now too. Of course.
No, but you're right. A lot of the vests. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the way San Francisco's gone the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Or more of that. Maybe, there's less agencies and there's less people at, what used to be the bigger agencies. So they're still around.
I mean, it's an incredible city.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, it's
and that whole area really is just a wealth of different adventures and, geography and,
Yeah. There's some
how do we describe those things? Tourism features or something? I don't know. But the perks of being in the Bay Area are pretty incredible.
We should just kick.
Carrie's got man flu.
I've got man flu, Erich. So believe me, I have a dazzling personality. You're just going to have to take my word for it.
Gotcha.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about Old Spice because I think that's such a fascinating story. The more I kind of dug into that one and how, a month out and like no one showed up to casting and like some of these things, I think just sometimes constraints make the best work. Yeah. Right? Sometimes you're up against the wall and like you just have to go. And I think it's a really remarkable example of something that was such an underdog and maybe not an afterthought, but such a I don't know, such an amazing story behind such an iconic campaign. So
Erich, as a fellow member of the Wieden and Kennedy alum, welcome to Second Wind. You've made one of the very bestest spots in the entire stratosphere.
Erich, I'm interested in your entry point to the industry. How specifically did you get a foot in the door?
I graduated college and my first job was at NPR in Santa Barbara.
Nice.
Wow, you started at the top.
Very San Francisco.
When you're 21 or 22 and you get to work at 4 a.m. for morning edition and then you're done at noon, kind of a lonely deal. So I stopped that. I moved home, went to Miami Ad School for a quarter. It cost $10,000. That's all the money I had. Then I was very lucky that a copywriter at Goodby at the time, she was a teacher there and she found out everyone was paying $10,000 a quarter. So she decided to start her own ad school at night at Goodby and other agencies at night and bringing creative directors she knew from the community. And I think she charged us like $1,000 a quarter. So we were able to work during the day, take those classes at night, and over the course of a couple of years, I got it booked together. I was living in my, the downstairs of my grandparents' house. It wasn't a glamorous
Glorious.
situation, right? And I was just trying to figure something out. I looked up every agency and knew all the work that I liked, and I got the credits and had every name of everything. And Skittles had just come out with the first Taste the Rainbow work.
And you were like, I eat Skittles.
Well, I was like, my student book was like for every brand with like a Skittles spot. So, I mean, I used every friend and every teacher and bugged people, Scott Petrone and Ian Reichenthal, who were the creative directors on Skittles at the time. They liked it enough and made room for me.
It sounds like you just sort of put in the work. You know what I mean? You just kept working at it until you got in there. What, in terms of shifting from being a creative at an agency to being an agency owner, what was the biggest surprise in that shift?
I don't know if it was a surprise. I mean, I was at Scheidt, New York, then I was at Wieden & Kennedy in Portland. And then my first boss at Scheidt, Jared Graff, was starting his own agency. And so I got the opportunity to basically be the first hire there.
Barton, right?
Very fun. That was after Old Spice, it was just Jerry and myself into whatever, 40, 50 people a few years in when I left. And I liked it so much more than the big places just because it felt more like an advertising club. Sometimes in big offices, you have to deal with politics and
sure. Sometimes
all this type of stuff that I didn't really like. And when you're at a small agency, you're kind of exposed. Like everyone's a doer. You know what I mean? And so people are kind of like more in it together. Doing funny ads and stuff and cool ads is fun to do anywhere, but doing it in that smaller environment where everyone's kind of more like a team. Than a big place where people are navigating their way through playing politics and being weird. It was a lot more fun for me. I like that environment a lot more. So I kind of knew I wanted to start an agency after that experience.
You never got tempted to go brand side?
In-house?
In-house?
No, I don't think I did. Just because I like working on so many different brands. I haven't thought about it in forever. I can definitely see the draw of brand side. Maybe when you're more senior or a little older, just with the, less chaotic environment of, 100 deadline for a dozen different brands of owning an agency. But I don't know. I kind of like the high energy and the slight bit of chaos now and then and the variety of clients working agency side.
I think also 10 years ago, if that was when you were last looking for a job, that working in-house wasn't what it is now. So many people had a very sort of particular view of, and it wasn't a positive view of
where you go to die.
That's very true. That's very true. It's a whole different thing now, right? And there's a lot of in-houses departments that you could probably put up with some, on par with some great creative agencies. So
yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Old Spice because I see the posters behind you.
Procter & Gamble spends so much money with the network. They were able to, maybe for free or for very low cost, score an extra 30 seconds. They had a giant warehouse, or a few of them, full of the Old Spice body wash. They were going to discontinue it, and the plan was to do an ad for it to sell what they had, and then discontinue the body wash.
And this was a month before. So around Christmas, holiday Christmas.
This is sometime in, early or middle of December. So my creative partner, on Skittles at Scheidt Day, and then at Wieden & Kennedy on Old Spice and everything else, is a great guy named Craig Allen.
We know. Yeah, we know. Craig.
Yeah.
We're talking to Craig tomorrow. Actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, tell him I say hi, but I text him all the time, so I'll probably text him right after this. He says that the best way is that nobody had time to screw it up.
Yeah.
Should have died 100 times. But, we had a couple days to write some scripts. And look, before
was there did you get much of an insight, or was it literally just the brief was, warehouse full of body wash?
The big insight was not talking to men anymore. We're talking to women. So Craig writes, "Hello, ladies."
Hello, ladies.
You know what I mean? Literally. So we wrote that script out, wrote a handful of others. And that script was kind of exactly how it was produced. The only part was one of the other scripts we wrote had a handsome guy, and he was appearing in different places. He was like, I'm on a beach, I'm on a castle, I'm on a horse.
Oh my God,
And
my favorite line ever is,
I'm on a horse.
I'm on
Yeah.
a horse.
Yes. And the funny thing is, usually in casting calls, you need a fit, handsome actor for an Old Spice commercial. Usually you call in 100 and 200 show up. It's a couple days before Christmas. So, barely a couple dozen guys show up. And it was really slim pickings. So Isaiah Mustafa was in there, and he was honestly maybe one of two actually fit, handsome guys. And his performance didn't knock our socks off. Isaiah was at callbacks, and he had an idea. He's a big comic book fan, and he had an idea to, hey, why don't I do this more comic book character type of voice and read? But he knows you're supposed to do what got you to callbacks, right? The guy we had in the room at the time, he was not handsome and he was not built, but he was hilarious. He was definitely not what an Old Spice guy should be, but we thought we might get stuck with him just because it might be our only choice. Usually you're in callbacks for 4 or 5 minutes. He was in there for 20 minutes. So Isaiah was waiting on deck. He's like,
sitting in the chair going, yeah.
He's like, this guy has it. I don't have it. Screw it. I'm going to do the voice.
Mm.
And he comes in, and in his first take in callbacks, he does the whole, hello, ladies. You know what I mean? The whole thing is that he didn't do in the initial audition. And it was like, I remember falling back in the sofa like, yes. You know what I mean? Because it was so good.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell her. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamonds. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
I love
So good.
it.
It
really
holds
really
up.
love it. Yeah.
Even though it looks kind of simple, there's 20 people doing different things at precise moments. And Isaiah's not looking at it. He's looking at camera the whole time, and someone's got to put things in his hands. They have to push him onto a horse without anyone noticing. The first day we had no usable takes. The second day, we were having a lot of trouble figuring out. When you shoot outside, you get weather insurance. If it rains, you can do another shoot day. You have till something like 3:00 in that day for it to start raining. We were getting nowhere, and I don't think the clients had money for a third day. It was sunny this whole time. And then from out of nowhere, shooting on the beach in Malibu, we have like 15 minutes before the cutoff for weather insurance. And I swear a storm rolls through, and it's raining. And I remember the producers taking out their phones and videotaping it, and then videotaping their watch, you know what I mean, to prove it. So we ended up getting the third day. It took the whole third day, and the only 2 usable takes that we decided between using were the last take on the day and like the third to last on the day. So it took the whole 3 days to figure out the choreography of everything. We cut it, we do the special effects, we have the final spot. It gets presented to the team, and they didn't like it. They hated it, and they didn't want to air it.
What did they hate about it?
This helps you understand it. The 15 we filmed at the same time is Isaiah riding backwards on a horse. The take that we use on that one, while the horse is walking, it's actually pooping. We hadn't taken it out yet. We showed that to the clients, and they were like, yes, ha. They thought that was the funniest thing they'd ever seen.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we
So,
go.
So we're dealing with dudes.
Yeah. I think we're dealing with, eventually they got Dan Wieden, who was still kind of involved at the time,
Yep.
to get on the phone with the bosses over there at P&G.
He liked it.
And the deal, well, he argued for it. And, this doesn't happen anymore. The way Wieden and Kenny, won Old Spice, and they had a deal where, Old Spice was basically going out of business, and Wieden was like, trust us. I believe part of the deal was you can kill work if it's off brief, but if it's on brief, you can't kill it because you don't like the creative.
Yep. Which should be a universal rule in our industry.
Sure. And so, I mean, so the leadership at Wieden was able to argue it on, not onto the Super Bowl, but what they did was they said, look, we don't like it. P&G said, we don't like it. We're not putting on the game. But the rest of the media buy, which started immediately following the game, we can let it run there. And so it started hitting the air on, multiple channels right after the Super Bowl.
And it was
and
an
it ended up,
instant hit.
it did so well. Like, I think even that night that it ended up winning one of the Super Bowl polls that came out like a day later. So
It wasn't even on the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Quick question about, you said, how do you push somebody onto a horse without anybody noticing?
He sat in this kind of, I don't know, it's like almost like a flat piece of metal that slid onto the horse, so with at the horse's exact height.
Okay.
Kind of like
magic of production.
He
Yeah.
sat in like a metal bar, and it slid perfectly onto the horse, and the camera stayed with him. So then when you could pull back,
That's an
you reveal
industry
that
horse
$20.
that goes, oh, it's fine. Just get on with it. Just let's just get this done.
Yeah, right.
You mentioned your book was all in the same space, like this sort of absurd, like bizarre comedy, absurd. I don't know what the right word is for it, but there's this history of massive hits and huge, not just hits that are, industry favorites, which we do see a lot now of, like, you see this sort of disconnect between what the industry loves and what, the real people love. But you have this track record of creating work that is this sort of absurd humor that sells a ton of product, right? But also that everybody just loves because it's so entertaining and fun and different. Like, how do you think about that and creating work like that and selling work like that in an industry that's very risk averse?
I think I lucked out in is I never had bosses who were like, oh, we could never show something that crazy. You know what I mean? Another part of it is, I just think I'm just with a young guy, like to have fun, like to laugh, think of the craziest idea we could think of. I think a lot of that works out perfectly for 15 or 30 seconds. You know what I mean? I think if you take, I don't know what to call it either, by the way, the style you described of, the type of work I guess I'm most known for. But that would never make a good sitcom or a good movie. You know what I mean? It wouldn't work in any kind of longer format, that's for sure. It's too.
Well, it works because it's unexpected, right?
Yeah.
You're not expecting it to sort of poke fun at itself in a way. It sort of acknowledges the absurdity of the format.
Yeah, it's like we have 15 seconds or 30 seconds to grab you and make you remember us. So I think, that absurdity helps grab attention. And then the other part of it that I figured out over the years is that I'm really literal as a writer. So, when you get a brief and you get that key message that we have to communicate, a lot of times I just say it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like I don't ladder up to a higher emotional idea and then mention it.
You're not being too clever.
You know what I mean? I'll write, we have to sell a $5 pizza. That's one of the first thing they say is the pizza's $5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the fact that my approach was very literal, I found is why the clients will buy something that crazy, because you present it to them and they're like, well, that's I smiled and laughed, but that's still
it's
crazy.
landing. Yeah.
And I'm like, it literally says what you've asked us to say. You know what I mean? And the other part is it's not like a lot of commercials are big emotional experiences that tack on what you need to say at the end. I'll write the whole story about the $5 pizza or the 20% off the thing, right? The
product feature is central.
Yes. The product or services feature or deal or whatever we're driving home is the middle of the story, is what we're talking about. And I think that's powerful. And that allows you to get away with selling something more creative. And it probably helps, you buy the absurdity more too. You know what I mean? So.
And that feels so obvious that it's like dumb that everybody doesn't do that, but people don't do that. As you say, where did you learn that? Did you just do that not by accident, but
no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I definitely did it by accident. I definitely did it from, let's think of the craziest thing that'd be fun to go make. And what's it about?
So what else have you really loved making?
Starting with Skittles was really awesome. The Pinata Man or the everything he touches turns into Skittles. doing all that with stuff in camera, which I think makes all the difference with the effects. When I started Barton F. Graff and doing all the Little Caesars and the Kayak and the
So
Ragu
good.
campaign,
So
um,
good. So
that was,
good.
I had a lot of fun doing that.
I think it's hard to go past Ragu for originality. And
I don't know
just
that one. What's Ragu?
Ragu. It's
After
the
a long day of
long day of
childhood.
childhood. You've seen it, Carrie, because we've had it on the show.
Have
But,
we? Okay.
yes.
My mistake.
But
That one.
she's
I
got
love
man
it.
flu. She's got man
I got
flu.
man flu.
They
I've
made
got
a beer commercial
there's
for
no
kids.
brain
and it's
in
pasta
here.
sauce. So, Eric, I'm interested in your creative process, and I want to talk specifically. We've talked to a lot of different creative leaders, and some do weird things. I don't know if you have any weird things, but I think overall, there's sort of this tendency to like, Jerry said something that's always stuck with me, which is sort of it's this process of like coming together and a lot of consumption of information and discussion, and then like being apart, and then like space. Right, for your sort of brain to process, and often, that's when the idea in the shower comes. But I'd love to hear about your creative process and what you think has really worked for you.
I mean, I kind of get what you say there about going away from it, because you do have to give it a little time. I mean, look, nowadays advertising is fast paced, and you're lucky if you get 2 weeks. But I don't think I do anything different or weird. But like, even when I was coming up and writing with Craig every day for like a decade, we would, famously sit in our office. We were both hard workers, but we'd both sit across from each other in 2 chairs in a cubicle or in an office and not talk. I mean, for long periods of time while we were thinking.
But for us, it works well when we just actually sit in silence.
And when we had something, we'd say it, and then the other one would often kill it, and we'd go back to thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to be comfortable in the silence, I think, of it.
Also, how do you stay focused? Because if that was me, I'd be like, oh, I must just write that 17th shopping list.
There's a discipline to it for sure.
Mm.
I mean, coming up, it was a lot different 20 years ago where, bosses were mean to you and it was kind of scary and you had to produce, you know what I mean? And there were a lot more creatives and you'd be let go if you weren't.
Super competitive, right?
Yeah, super competitive, super crazy. So, I mean, for instance, when we started on, I started on Skittles, the creative department with 11 creative teams, and they would hold up a Skittles brief for one 30-second commercial. We'd have 6 weeks or something, and it would be like best script wins. I think we counted up when we left that job, and it's how we learned how to write. I think, it wouldn't be uncommon for us to not just think of, but to fully type out around 250 scripts.
Wow. For
and
one
present it to the
spot?
script director for one spot. But other teams were doing this as well. You know what I mean? And so it's how you end up with such high quality, with Skittles Touch and the Pinata and Beard and all,
It's just hard work, right? Sometimes it's just putting in the time.
And I mean, look, it's like, we all moved across the country to New York City, which was a cold, expensive place.
Yeah.
We weren't living in comfort. We worked every night till
Couldn't
night.
do your washing in your apartment.
Yeah, we were there for 12 hours a day, and on the weekends we had folding chairs, and we'd sit in Central Park across from each other like we did in the cubicle and write all weekend. So we came with a purpose. We're like, we weren't like, we're going to live in New York. We were like, we got this job. We got this chance to write cool ads. We need to make a couple. You know what I mean? So it was, Craig and I were both very driven in that way. So it was kind of, so that's how we did. I borrowed $5,000 from my mom to barely get a little, closet to sleep in and start showing up. And, we lived at work. Work is all we did.
And what was the longest period of time where you weren't getting to make the work,
I was super lucky to start, getting to sell stuff pretty soon out of the gate. They paid me $32,000. My take home, my paycheck every 2 weeks was $950. And a girl had put up drywall and made a little tiny enough place for a mattress and a TV. And so that was $1,100 a month, $800 a month to live on. I mean, it was different back then. So you were more driven. You were like eyes on the prize,
One of the things that really stood out to me about Barton was that you guys weren't afraid to take the piss, as we would say in Australia, out of the industry and the kind of the big players. I think we're sort of missing that at the moment, somebody who's calling BS. And I think there's a lot of BS at the moment, whether it be big tech trying to say that, we don't need humans. You just have AI and plug your wallet into Facebook ads. And, the holding companies are really not even talking about creativity, right?
No.
Which is really the core of the business. But I think what's exciting for me is a lot of people like yourself have left these big, incredible legacy agencies, starting smaller. I feel like the boutique creative agency space is, got some energy and some momentum. How are you thinking about the industry overall? And like, I don't know if you have kids or not, but would you recommend young people get into to try and do what you do, or do you think they just need to stay away from it?
Oh man, I do have kids. They're 9 and 11, so they haven't asked about doing it yet. I don't know
Yeah,
when
right.
I'd stay there. I mean,
You're still cool to your kids, probably for another couple of years.
yeah, I borderline with the 11-year-old.
Yeah, right.
I was
But,
going to say another 6 to 9 months, surely.
yeah, right. I'm cool sometimes. Yeah, I mean, look, I think all the energy for creativity is in the smaller boutique shops, at least here in the States. It's changing. Advertising shrinking, which has led to more and more smaller shops, which is cool to try to take advantage and make stuff as creative as you can. I mean, it's easy to get cynical if you're lucky enough to get to do it in the past like I did. You know what I mean?
We've gone through a number of different waves of new technology, right? Everybody has access to these new tools now, so it's no longer a differentiator.
Sure.
What's always going to be a differentiator is human creativity. And a person thinking, what if you took this thing and this thing, right? Which is what creativity is. It's just putting different things together in a new way. And I think, to me, that's always going to be a differentiator for brands that want to stand apart from the competitors. It's always going to be a human-driven element of business. As you lead young creatives, how are you telling them to approach the work today? Because I think AI is obviously a very powerful tool, and I think for young people especially can be detrimental in that it's a very seductive shortcut.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that can be really dangerous because you shortcut the work. Right. And there's so much learning in doing the work.
Yeah, we keep up on it really well. And we have, everybody's in mandatory, actually, like kind of lessons and workshops a couple times a month here just to keep up with all the tools. The places where it's, done the most is actually saving time, especially for art directors, in a wonderful way when it comes to all the images that you put into decks. You know what I mean?
I've had some problems with that though, because if your like concept art is too like real looking, the client can sometimes want that thing, and you're like, oh, well, it's not going to be exactly like that, but I know it's very realistic. But like, I've actually advised some of our clients to like go back and draw a rougher sketch rather than a really polished visual, right? Because like we don't want to assume too much detail. Does that make sense? Like it kind of forces you to go too far.
I can understand that. We haven't had any clients have problems with that. I would say the bigger thing like that I've taken away is, like I mentioned before, timelines are a lot shorter now, and creatives are on a lot more projects at the same time. So to have one half of a team, to have an art director not have to take 2 hours if you have a commercial where Michael Jordan's jumping over the moon, to find a picture of Michael Jordan, cut it out, find a picture of the moon, cut it out, spend an hour in Photoshop and make it look nice. Now that she can just prompt that in and keep concepting, which is the most important part, I've found that it helps us have our creatives focus more on doing the important part of concepting the actual ideas, minimize their grunt work, which is wonderful. I think there's a lot of brands that might have the money to pay a fee to an agency, but they don't have millions of dollars for production.
Yeah.
And so we've made a campaign with AI that would be to run on places like YouTube, where you're watching it on small screens, where I think if it's funny, you're not going to mind it. We have a campaign coming out that would have taken $2 million to make this campaign of 3 ads. It cost, barely anything.
For production, yeah.
One prompter working in rounds with me to get to a good place. I don't want to just say I hate AI, because I do love going on shoots and I love shooting stuff for real. But I think there's going to be avenues where there's real brands that don't have the production dollars for big spots. They also don't have the media dollars to put stuff on national TV that might be able to benefit from it. And we might be able to think of the most creative idea possible that would cost millions to shoot and make it, and make it for them. So I'm hopeful that could be like a sweet spot where we don't mind AI.
There are going to be opportunities for brands where, who never had opportunity before. Erich, in 100 years on your LinkedIn tombstone, what's it going to say?
I don't know. Hopefully it just says, good dad and nice boss.
I thought you were going to say good dad, nice bod.
Well, that too. We can
Works out with Isaiah.
And also, back to me. And what would you recommend that the next generation, what should they be doing if they want to get into this kind of industry?
I think copywriters need to spend time learning how to write and learning how to write headlines and learning how to write even body copy. Art directors need to learn how design skills. They're doing some of that, but then they're also thinking of activation ideas and the kind of stuff that wins creative awards, which is cool, but they're focusing too much on that and they're not learning the nuts and bolts, of the traditional advertising skill set. You'll use your creativity in both, but that's one that I wish, it's so funny. We had a presentation recently where we were showing out-of-home boards. And, the current young creatives, they thought of a good campaign idea and they executed lots of cool activation ideas. And when it came to the out-of-home billboards, they had some lines that were, you know what I mean? And we happened to bring in a freelance copywriter, a friend of mine, someone with my experience level who came up, 20 years ago. And his lines blew their minds. You know what I mean? He's like, I didn't know you could be that funny in 8 words. You know what I mean? I didn't know you could be that smart. It was almost like, they're like, oh, wow. You know what I mean? So, and
the fundamentals.
Those headlines are now on your Instagram feeds and that's what clients are paying for. You know what I mean? So I think being sure to master or really get deep into learning the traditional copywriter and art direction skills while you keep up with technology, while you explore concepting activations and other fun stuff too. Just don't lean too hard on only, you gotta learn the traditional skill set as well.
Got to put in the work too. Is there a book you recommend?
I shouldn't say this. I've only ever read one book about advertising.
Is it your own?
No, I don't have a book.
That one's coming.
He doesn't want to talk about it so much. He's left the call.
He
just walks off.
It's the only I have in my office. It's the only ad book that we have. It's called the Book of Gossage. He was a creative in San Francisco in the 50s and 60s who was kind of did his own thing. He turned an old firehouse into his ad agency.
Oh, nice.
And it's written, Jeff Goodby wrote the foreword to it. It kind of, it's kind of a little bit scattered all over the place, but to me, it was the most interesting book and the only one that could keep my attention that I kept reading all the way through. But that's one I don't think as many people will know about, but it's the only one I've read.
The Book of Gossage. I like that.
Maybe we can we can coin the phrase gossage as your particular creative style.
No. Let's not do that.
It sounds so like, it's gossip, but it's not. It's gossage. It's
a name though, right? There's no word.
Yeah,
it's not a word. It's kind of a good word.
I like the word. I like it as if
gossage.
It's not
you're gossaging again.
Yeah,
He's gossaging. He's gossaging. And wait, real quick before we go, the name.
Yeah.
ERICH.
All right. So
And
this is a name story. I personally hate, maybe hate's too strong of a word, but no, that's the truth. I hate when advertising moved into, away from last names into,
acronyms.
we're not, instead of last names, it's like, we're Kaleidoscope. We're not,
Oh, you hate that? Okay.
we're a creative consultancy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, when 72 and Sunny, great company, great people, but when that started, I was like, eye roll, And so
Yeah.
when when I knew I was going to start an agency, I always wanted to do last names, and I thought it was going to be very straightforward and straight ahead. Then when I realized my partner was going to be Steve Erich, whose last name is my first name, I'm like, that can be just to me, the funniest inside joke ever. So,
And his name is
his last
Eric
name is Eric
with an H, and it's just pronounced Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So then I'm like, oh my gosh, we should just be Eric and Kallman. I threw out some other names, 68 and Partly Cloudy.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There've been so many.
Yeah, I had a bunch of fun ones, but he nixed all those. So we just went with the last names, which is just like a funny inside joke to me, but I think it's created some confusion among other people overall. So
Sure.
maybe it was a bad move, but whatever.
I like it.
Not at all. I think it's,
I like it.
It's certainly no worse than any other name. Listen, Eric, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us at Second Wind. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me, guys.